welcome back to the desk for the LEC Summer Playoffs, the very first playoffs of KC, as we stated earlier. Against G2 here, that was a messy game, guys, and a slow-paced one on top of that.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, you know, it's just cross-maps on cross-map. One team wants Grubs, the other one Drakes. You want top turret, okay, I take bot turret. You know, that was just the story of the early game.
Yeah, at one point I thought when G2 had the advantage, they were going to close it out pretty quickly, but all of a sudden we're sitting, I don't know, 40, 45 minutes into the game, and it's still undecided.
And I mean, that's what I mean. How much did this early game and the split that we saw impacted the rest of the game? Because KC was taking Drakes early, but why did we have this mess for like 20 minutes from the 15-minute mark until the 30th?
Well, we've seen this very often where one team is a Grub team, the other one is a Drake team. So one team gets drops, the other one gets 2 Drakes. G2 didn't get 6 Grubs this game, doesn't matter. It's still the fact that they prioritized it. So third Drake is where we usually see them try and step up, and G2 was on it. They just missed the smite, and they were in a position to go for the team fight. BrokenBlade right here is very late. He's currently in mid lane. Canna's already TP'd in on a great TP ward, so G2 haven't even set themselves up for success. I actually think their third Drake fight setup was quite bad, actually. Very poor from G2 because Mikyx was late on a reset. Yike got forced out of his own jungle and towards the flash, so they weren't set up for success here.
Yeah, but ultimately, like G2 usually does on the 4th one, they start shining in the team fights. But I think it's worth pointing out that even in the team fights that G2 won, outside of this one, they were usually fairly close. But here, when it mattered the most and when KC had an opportunity to get the soul, they were really, really solid.
Yeah, and I think you see it at a team fight like that, we finally start seeing the brand pick. We've been backing for it, it's finally coming through today. We saw it earlier from Razork, now we see it from Yike as well. And he had a huge early game impact. Throughout all the early kills they had, he was part of them. He was on getting the ball rolling. Yes, a lot of it was around objectives, so having your jungler around is usually what you need. But in the end, he had a great performance on the pick.
Yeah, underrated pick, Broxah, I would say. And I know we had this discussion backstage when we were talking about the benefits of Zyra versus Brand, and I do love the impact in damage, especially, that Brand can provide in this teamfight situation, because we saw that this couple to BB, I feel like helped G2 immensely in these fights.
Yeah, I feel like for a while the jungle pool in the LEC became a little bit one-dimensional. Everybody picking like Sejuani, Maokai, and Vi, but all of a sudden we've realized that the jungle role can also carry. And now with the AP item changes, champions like Brand and Zyra can have a lot of value in certain fights. And the upside of a champion like Brand is that even if the enemy team has a lot of frontliners, like a full tank Gragas and a Sejuani in this case, it really doesn't matter. He's not only going to spread the slow to literally every person on the enemy team, but he burns them down so quickly.
Yeah, and it proves again that EI can play pretty much anything, because he entered the league not as a carry type of champions, then he was assigned trees for the past 6 months. I feel any kind of trees that you can find on the Summer Split to finally come back to this type of champion. And I do feel like that it can suit G2 style better in playoffs, especially when we want to see them ramping up.
Yeah, but I also think top side of G2 coming into this first game, they were definitely the most reliable part. Even if you see some of the fights where Caps was late to a TP, G2 would then lose. But as soon as Caps is there, as soon as BrokenBlade is there on the Renekton, and you have the Brand, it became so much easier for them to actually pilot these team fights. But I do want to give credit to KC as well, because I think they were putting up a decent fight. Yeah. They just couldn't keep it going. And I don't even hate their draft fully. Like, it's clearly designed to be a team fight draft. You can see how it works when everything gets layered together. And they kept themselves in the game for so long with stealing away the third Drake, by taking a Baron for themselves too, and that's why the game went on for so long.
I mean, honestly, if this was any other team than G2 on the other side, they probably would have won this and had a fantastic start to their playoffs. And I think their preparation showed really well. Like, from start to end, they actually, you know, were looking really solid. They were super close to getting soul point, and a lot of the fights where G2 made a small misstep, they were always on point and they reacted immediately, not only individually but as a team. And I think just the level up we've seen from them over the last couple of weeks has been really impressive. I
mean, yeah, honestly, it's crazy to think that this team, who made back-to-back top 10 in 2, changing some players to finally clutch their very first playoffs, actually show up that strong against one, if not the best team we have in the league right now. And I'm just wondering if they have more tricks up their sleeves coming into Game 2, because they're gonna be playing on blue side. And as you say, GB, we don't dislike the draft that they played, but it's more about maybe being more careful on the execution of some setups and maybe playing around vision a bit better against G2?
Yeah, I mean, I agree, but I also think like Tristana is already a very strong champion in this meta, but giving it to Caps as well, who's by far the best Tristana player in Europe, is also something that you have to be worried about. So either that's a takeaway when you move over to blue side, or you just have to straight up ban it, because you can hate Tristana however much you want. When I'm watching Caps Tristana, it's such a treat. Like the guy with the movement, that time in top lane where he killed himself in-game when he's hitting the Fawn Mail as well. Like his movement, his W's, they're just so crisp here. And I feel like that really made the game difficult for them. Laning phase, side laning, and team fights.
I also think you need to put Canna on something with a little bit more agency in the game. I think this guy is a really strong carry player, as he's proven many times in the past. But in this case, playing full tank Gragas into BrokenBlade's Renekton, BrokenBlade just has so much pressure throughout the entire game, and especially in these team fights. And I think Kai'Sa having, you know, just one more threat that can make a difference would really go a long way.
You've been in stressful situations, maybe being the underdog. I mean, not so much playing for Fnatic, but still, in this situation, you're coming back as Kai'Sa. You go from the drawing board, you want to get on stage and take from the good things that you had in Game 1. What is the main advice that you give to your players?
I mean, I think ultimately you just have to focus on all the things that worked, and then, you know, try to go from there. And at the end of the day, they did a lot of great things, and they were really, really close. So I think most of all, do a little bit of fine-tuning in draft to have more, you know, threats like I already mentioned. Make sure that your setups in objectives are fully on point, and then I think you're mostly good to go. Because really, it's just typical G2. The early game was pretty messy, but when the dragon fights come around, they kill you, they take Baron, and all of a sudden the game is more or less over.
I mean, they can bleed, we know it, and Kai'Sa showed a lot of good stuff here in Game 1. Let's see if they can turn things around in Game 2. Casters, take it away.
Now let's see if Karmine Corp can continue what was a very fine Game 1 and take us all the way to 3 games, or whether G2 clean things up a little bit in Game 2 and round us out with the 2-0 I think everyone expected coming into today.
I mean, I'm glad that Kai'Sa was able to put up such a strong fight. Yeah. Ultimately, I kind of said it at the start of the game, want to reinforce it. They came in with a plan and they executed the plan. And I think that's something that we really haven't gotten to see from Kai'Sa really at all this year. So pleasantly surprised, and we'll see what they've got cooked up for us as they move over to the blue side for Game 2.
Yeah, the Tristana, the brand, honestly, now that G2 have played it in this series, I'm really curious about what they're thinking about doing. They banned away the Corki, and of course, being on blue side, they will have first pick. So Tristana now also has to be a priority potentially for G2.
Free up a ban because they don't have to ban Rumble.
Oh yeah.
The Azir though is still going to be taken away. How will they round things out? Also, what will their priority be? As the Rumble now comes through on the side of G2, kind of mainstay on the red side. I do think Karmine needs to consider the Tristana. Right now, the conversation's happening. What are they thinking about?
Do they want a mid ban? Do they want a jungle ban? Ivern, maybe towards Yike.
If you ban out, it's going to be the Lucian. So then G2 have the option of don't ban Tristana. Karmine Corp take it, you take Brand plus something.
True, I mean, that's the option that I didn't really talk about, right? You can just take the Trist.
Okay.
G2 will ban the Trist. So do Karmine Corp prioritize the Brand, or do they look towards the Sejuani, which is something we've been seeing?
I would imagine the Sejuani.
Yeah. It's just a much better champion for Karmine Corp, I think, as a whole, and it enables Vladi's melee champion ball if he wants to lean on it.
I'd like to think they can also flex it. I think that they can play it top.
Yeah.
Ever since we saw BrokenBlade kind of introduce that to the LEC, we've seen more top laners picking it up, and it really wouldn't surprise me if Canna as a player is more than happy to play that. So they always have that flexibility. I wonder if G2 will prioritize bot lane once more. Last game we saw them pick the Leona and the Renekton relatively early on. Around the world, Renekton is super high priority now with the removal of Cassante and Skarner's nerf.
Let's throw a spanner in the works if they want to.
I know it would be Hans Summer signature.
General rule of thumb, don't talk about hovers, but it is Hans. Varus would obviously be the more stable, standard playing bully. And I think that's what they might do. No, last second Ezreal swap, alright.
Hans? Ezreal?
Yeah.
Could of course be Caps Ezreal. Can be flexed towards the mid lane, but Vedius is currently fervently looking back at Hans Summer's history.
Yeah, in all fairness, I can't remember the last time he played.
So he has 24 competitive games at a 37.5% win rate.
Can only go up from there.
5, sorry, I said 4-5.
Yeah, I think you'll find Medic it can also go down.
That is true. The last time he played it was Worlds last year against Genji. Before that, in the LEC season finals, and then before that, all the way back in 2022.
Yeah, I guess like he has played it, but he's just when I think of Hans Summer, Ezreal is not the champion I think about.
No, lane bullies or a hyper carry, not Ezreal, right? Like, One of those two. I feel like this is just a mid flex. I think after looking at how last game went, seeing how much aggression Closer was showing towards the mid lane, with the safety of Tristana gone, Ezreal was just that nice middle ground where you can hold on to the flex, because now it's like you've got Ezreal into Kai'Sa, the lane matchup kind of stinks. I suppose you're going to get two support counter bans, which is going to feel nice, but you're probably not going to end up in the best lane matchup anyway.
That's very true. And Caps has 100% win rate on Ezreal over 5 games played.
Oh,
so,
okay.
You know, there was that time when Runeglaive Ezreal was a thing. I wonder if it was during those days. Anyway, Kai'Sa and Yone logged in. We'll stop talking about the Ezreal for the moment by Karmine Corp. So Vladi once again looking towards something he's comfortable on. Obviously, we did say the Yone can be flex top, but once again, it's a Renekton from G2, so the expectations are that Yone will be in mid.
Just a reminder, Caps did play AD carry.
Oh, yeah.
He did, Sometimes they're just, you know...
Yeah, you forget that one
It was
split.
2020 when he played it, yeah.
Yeah, because I saw it was versus Origin, and then I was like, oh, right, yeah, he did do that. Brand, going to be taken away, along with the Rakan. I like the Rakan ban a lot. We saw it also in the previous game. We'll see if they also look to get rid of something like the Nautilus, or maybe the Alistair. No, it's going to be the Naut. Makes sense, kind of continuing the trend. And I think that this Leona was a problem as well.
Yeah.
I think Mikyx overall had a great game. His initiations, along with his re-engages, once the fight actually started, his ability to then set up his team to continue the fight was, I think, excellent.
I want to know if Karmine Corp are really going to have something with a little bit more punch out of the support role in comparison to last game.
So far, they're just running it back.
Yeah.
The Gragas is, of course, still open.
I do think getting rid of the brand when you're running it back actually makes a lot of sense, because one of the things we saw for Karmine Corp was the struggle of we dive in on someone and then we all die because of the Solar Flare Pyroclasm combination. Now they don't have that, but instead, let's just put down some bloods. It works very well in a similar vein there for Yike.
I don't know if I like Alistair. Okay, yeah, cool. I was going to say, I don't like Alistair into Ezreal.
No.
I also don't really like Alistair into Zyra.
Not sure how much I like Braum either. I think it's just Rel, right? Everything else just feels a bit worse. I mean, good for the lane matchup at the end of the day.
I mean, I do think that Braum does well into engage, right? The problem is the range that you have with G2. Zyra plus Ezreal just automatically gives you a lot of range, so you don't necessarily have to commit to a fight. You can chip them down and then look for the fight afterwards. But there's the Gnar. I prefer this a lot more from Canna. One of his all-time career best performing champions and something he's very comfortable on. I think it's a very good matchup into the Renekton as well. So even though the Kai'Sa, Yone and Sejuani are the same, the variations I do think give them a few more options.
I suppose our one final question now is the Ezreal flex pick. Is it going down towards Hans? Oh.
Did Medic call it?
I like Neela. There was a strategy. Neela Lee Sin, jump into the enemy base, proxy two away.
That was really funny.
Shout out to Kadra.
Instead it's going to be the Zyra. So Ezreal will be going towards the mid lane. Hans Summer has a bit of self-peel in the form of the Featherstorm, and that Leona will be moved to support.
I personally don't love Zyra into Braum, but, you know, overall it's still fine. Gives you a lot of agency in the bot lane 2 versus 2. Also, you have a lot of independency, I should say, as Xayah, just thanks to your ultimate and the feathers. You have a lot of self-peel. Yone is going to struggle a little bit more. I will say he'll have an easier time against Ezreal than he does against Tristana. That's definitely true. But we're going to get to see Caps back on his Ezreal. 100% win rate, professionally.
Yep.
Admittedly, it was when he was an AD carry, but perhaps those skills now coming in handy.
Some muscle memory never dies.
It's very true.
Yeah. I wonder what the problem solving will be for G2 this time around, because it really does feel like it's almost entirely about just staving off the engage from Karmine Corp with, I want to say no re-engage, but it's slightly less nuanced.
I mean, functionally, I think G2's comp is the exact same as their previous game.
Trying to sell it.
I think you can argue that there's a scaling difference between the Varus and the Xayah. You can also argue that Tristana doesn't have the same side lane threat that a Triss does. Sorry, the Ezreal doesn't have the same side lane threat as a Triss does. But KC running a very similar draft as well. It's going to be interesting. We're kind of having the run back. KC saying we liked what we did, a few execution changes, and we probably could have won that game. G2 also saying, well, we did win that game, so we're we're just going to run it back.
But what a change that is for Karmine Corp, right? Like, we talk a lot about how they struggled at the start of the year and in the middle of the year. To be able to go into Game 2 against G2, who have won Spring and Winter, and say, hey, we actually I actually like what we did in game 1. A couple of mistakes, as you say, as we see G2, Mikyx being highlighted. Second player in the league to hit 5,000 LEC assists after Hylissang.
You know, they said last game, if he hits 12, he will hit 5,000. And we were like, that's fine, we'll worry about it in game 2. And then he hit it in game 1.
But in the final fight. So I don't feel too bad about the fact that when the Nexus exploded, we didn't just have confetti coming up on the screen. So Targamas an upset. Looking to poke their noses in here. Now Mikyx coming in from the side. Is it a Shielded Daybreak start? Or a Zenith Blade? Didn't go in. Didn't know, obviously, where Closer is. Doesn't know as well where Vladi is, so would have been a little greedy to go in. But Camps can continue to poke with Mystic shots if Upset and Targamas continue to poke their noses in towards this Tribush.
Seems like KC maybe thinking about trying to disrupt Yike's blue start, just because, of course, of how fast Zyra is going to clear through the jungle. One of the earlier points we made in game 1 was about how much tempo Brand could attain over a tank like Sejuani in the early stages. Caps, that's a lovely trade. And Yike on the Zyra, it's going to be an even bigger problem if he's allowed to free farm up in this early game 2.
For sure. Now, last time, Twitch chat, you broke our thing. I want to see if you can break it again. So you can vote G2 or KC. Very similar drafts to what we saw in game 1. You can either spam G2 in the Twitch chat, or you can spam KC, and you can let us know who you think is going to win game 2. KC were able to sway the opinion during the game from 20% at the start all the way up to 31%. And I'd like to see if the KC fans have a little bit more confidence with the run back, or maybe you've lost confidence after seeing a very similar composition to what we saw in game 1.
You can also spam KEKW if you want to see the world burn.
I will say that will not contribute to the vote, but you can do that.
It's part of the camaraderie.
Yeah.
For the moment, G2 getting pushed in the bot lane once again. You can see BrokenBlade has prio in top, and Caps has prio in mid. So even the early game going very similarly to the early game of game 1 of the series.
Closer. His way towards mid lane. Caps.
Caught out by Vladi. There's the stun as well with the permafrost, and Caps is just dead. Karmine Corp on the board 3 minutes in.
Great timing from Closer. I mean, a little bit fortunate that Caps was just hovering on the top side of the lane, but at the end of the day, Chain TC is there, comes off 3 camps, and Caps is simply just not expecting it.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, KC literally doing exactly what they did in game 1, and they're attacking Caps, and they make it work incredibly well. First blood going over to Vladi.
Yeah, and I mean, even at level 6, I feel like it's still going to be quite scary dealing with both Closer and Vladi's ultimates, as the cost of that mid lane gank is actually going to be Yike, taking away 2 more camps from Closer. So he's going to extend his personal jungle lead and also get a Scuttle Crab off the back of that. So it's 2 camps.
He may even get double crab.
Yeah, he could, honestly.
Great awareness from Yike, leveraging the pressure that he has with BrokenBlade in top.
Surely not.
I mean, you can just poke him, put down a plant, spit it in towards Vladi. Chunk him out just a little bit. Mikyx roaming across here as well.
Got Caps was in some danger there. Staying corrected. Going to force Vladi to go back to base. He does, of course, have the TP. He buys a little bit more time with his base, thanks to the cannon minion. As Mikyx makes his way up towards mid as well to assist his mid and jungle, looking for a potential play. Caps shows respect at the possibility of Closer being in the area.
Yeah, the important thing for Caps as well is he didn't burn Flash or anything in that first place. So you still have Arcane Shift and Flash to escape any subsequent ganks.
I do wonder how similar the objective early story is going to be for these 2 teams, because obviously G2 got all the grub spiles, KC stacking up the dragons, and that played a pretty big part in how long that game went on for, to be honest with you, just because of, well, no Elder on the map for 40+ minutes.
That's a great point. I also wonder what we'll see Yike up to in this early game. He has been farming up a Storm, as you both have already highlighted, stealing away those camps from Closer. 4 went, the double crab. Dragon now alive on the map. Grub's going to be spawning in a minute's time. But Yike is just power farming. He is just zooming through his camps.
He's going to be level 6 off Crocs.
He is leveraging the strength of Zyra, her incredible clear speed.
Vladi going in, Camp stashing to the side, Mikyx flashes, but Vladi with the sidesteps! Closer and Targamas now going to join the party as Mikyx stunned up with that permafrost. Mikyx down to 200 HP, needs a couple more autos, but they just can't get them. Closer has to flash away. The threat of caps flashing and autoing to take him down. Too great for him to stay in the fray.
A very close exchange between the two teams. The flash commitment from Mikyx gave KC the opportunity they needed to try and turn that around. But Leona's W makes you very durable, especially in this early game. And KC didn't quite have enough damage because they'd stayed in that extended fight for so long. Closer became very hesitant and was forced to flash himself. So it ends up just being a number of summoner spell trades. No one ends up losing their life.
Yeah, and more importantly as well, Close had to go back to base, so now this is Grubs for G2. BrokenBlade had prior up there as well, so he's here to help out. And Mikyx's also here ahead of Targamas, who just hanging around and ensuring Vladi didn't get dove. Anything silly? Hans?
Looking for the damage on Upset, who still has Cleanse and Flash. Hans only level 5. Upset down to 250 HP, but should be able to walk to the safety of his towers. Hans, okay.
Oh, okay.
So he right-clicks backwards, thinking it's taking him out of tower range, and autos a minion by accident because it was right in his way.
No, that wasn't.
I thought he was
level 6.
trying to get level 6.
Yes.
Oh, maybe
So
he was trying to get level 6. Oh,
and
true.
then ult, yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Either way,
It made
didn't
sense
manage to get the kill.
what he was doing.
Makes sense either way.
Once we saw the level 6 pop, all of a sudden it wasn't in.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice trade from Hans. Ultimately, that vision ward going to be spawning out Mikyx's position. I like the pathing Upset took as well. He sort of pathed towards the top of the tower, knowing that Hans was trying to do a Q into E like insta-burst. So he pathed bot immediately, kind of used the tower as almost like a wall, getting himself to safety. Upset though getting a little low here.
Mikyx using the Aftershock there, though, makes the dive a little bit trickier for G2 if they do want to go for it. Looks like they're not going to.
I wouldn't.
No, I think what they're more interested in is keeping Upset here, so Yike can come down and maybe start up this dragon.
I mean, but also just like extending this situation usually
mainstay.
means for a lot of AD carries that they feel hesitant, they just lose farm. But credit to Upset, keeping the farm pretty much dead even. He's doing a good job. We've seen how confident he is on the Kai'Sa. He had a very solid game the previous matchup.
He goes in, Zenith Blade Unbreakable down. Upset still at about 3rd HP or so, but able to survive under this tower, as you say, farming well. To miss one of this wave, and won't miss that one either as Targamas chucks out a Winter's Bite.
He wants to base, but they're really making it very hard for him, and you talked about it, like the longer he stays, the more prone he is to getting dove. Yike is hovering around mid and he will be spotted, but it's a very scary situation as an AD carry to be stuck here. And cleverly, G2 are just using this being like, you can't contest us on Dragon now.
Yeah,
so
they're effectively a whole player down.
Yeah, they kind of made the extended play work out for them. It's very difficult for KC to find any kind of cross map in this situation. The previous game, the moment the group started, they had a ward on it so they could cross map, but unfortunately for Close, he had to go back to base, right? After, because that little scuffle in the mid lane.
They are trying to find this top angle. BrokenBlade doesn't have Dominus. Canna's running out of Mega Gnar, though. They've got to pull the trigger now.
Wallop goes wide, so does the house. Closer going in, BrokenBlade. Stunned up with the Permafrost. Canna goes into Mini Gnar. Tank the tower relatively well with a True Shot Barrage. Is that enough damage on Closer to stop them? Closer tanks the tower, BrokenBlade flashes, Vladi goes in with the Fate Sealed as well. BrokenBlade still surviving, but in the end, Canna chucks the boomerang into his back and takes the kill.
Honestly, you got to feel a little bit from BrokenBlade. Barely got anything out of it besides the ultimates, but does a good job.
Closes down.
And I guess he buys so much time that the guy gets the sweep up, so never mind, you take it back.
I mean, that was a bad back from Closer.
Yeah.
I'm kind of disappointed because he really did a good job of finding that dive angle, knowing that there was no cross map, knowing there was no opportunity to contest the dragon, finding a dive up top and then executing on it well, to then just base in the middle of the river. A bit unfortunate, ends up giving a kill over to G2 and onto the Zyra nonetheless. Always a scary thing to do when right now I think that there is a full 2-level difference.
Yeah, and that's going to continue to be a thing for a little while here. Maybe catch-up XP will save Closer, but the actual
gold... Did we get the vote, by the way, or did we break it again?
So we broke it again.
Good job,
it was 83% G2 when we called for the vote.
83%.
But I've said now, apparently, we have worked out all of the errors in the code.
Okay.
Someone's been, sitting there Matrix style, fixing it. So
chatting.
After the next fight, if Karmine Corp win it, I think we bring up the vote again. Because otherwise, I think if G2 win it, it's just going to start swaying, 90% G2.
That's fair, that's fair.
Unless
the
Karmine Corp fans are so entrenched that the more they lose, the more they feel the support for their team, right? Which we have seen over the last few months.
Supporting their team. It depends how many flip-floppers there are. Like,
True.
Raz is the ultimate flip-flopper.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Probably League of Legends esports.
Big flip-flopper, that guy.
So you know that he is perma-spamming both in the chat?
Yeah, 100%.
Because he's playing both sides.
You guys can tag him at RazLol is his Twitch. Just tag him.
Yeah.
Might be in the chat,
Sure, he's
might
watching.
not. A grub fight beginning here as Yike lands the smite. Locked up though for the second with the Glacial Prison. Vladi dashing in, Mikyx there for the follow-up. Zenith Blade, Sola flare for the sun, but a great Glacial Fissure from Targamas will keep G2 at bay. And now Vladi turns his attentions over to Mikyx, BrokenBlade low. Does have that cold Meek, the Strangled Thorns down, Canna yeets BrokenBlade against the wall, but pays for it with his life, unable to escape the plants.
An incredibly tense fight. It ends up being only a single kill. Vladi, ooh, nice flash from Caps. Vladi finding a good opportunity there. Mikyx with some fantastic chain CC, but then Targamas with great peel. Both supports having huge impact in that fight. Ultimately, the swing factor was Yike's ultimate, being delayed for so long. Closer and Canna were stuck in the river, and once that Zyra ultimate down, they were kind of stuck in an awkward position, not allowing them to escape. We look back at it, and it's a nice ultimate initially. Follow-up from Vladi is good, but they don't quite have the damage, so he disengages, and then you can see this peel coming through from Targamas as Mikyx locks him down.
Yeah, exactly. But for Mikyx, there's no follow-up from anyone else just yet, because again, that peel from Targamas is so good. Yikes. I suppose re-engage in many ways with the ultimate, locks down Canna, and BrokenBlade's healing gets him out of trouble.
Crazy fight, very close, 2-2 now the kill score. G2 with a small gold lead. That mainly sitting on Yike. 2-0-0 now, the Leandry's completed. As both AD carries just continue to farm in the bot lane, relatively dead even.
AD carries the new top lane, it seems, just like chilling by themselves. Majority of the game, only 1 CS the difference between those two, and a plate over to Summer as well, meaning he's slightly ahead in terms of gold. But as you say, basically all of G2's lead is Yike over Closer, and that's expected as well. You know, Zyra farms quicker, and especially with the early invade that denied Closer a couple of camps and a couple of kills over to Yike, he's always just going to be ahead in gold. Solar play going down, Closer going in as they try and jump onto Caps, who dashes away. Strangled Thorns down once again, Closer has to burn his flash. Looking for that re-engage, but can't quite find it. G2 too slippery right now.
Solid disengage from G2, whilst Yike does have a lot of that gold lead without flash right now. Once Karmine Corp's abilities come back off cooldown their ultimates, he's a very vulnerable target. We saw it in that Herald exchange.
I do want to just give credit to Vladi. I think that his debut on KC has already been very impressive, but seeing him on this Yone, the way he navigated that engage from Mikyx was just flawless. Using the Soul Unbound to dodge the Solar Flare initially, then going back to it when the follow-up tried to come through from Mikyx, then the sidestep on the E, and then he uses the Q to create more space between him and Mikyx. Just a great awareness of his own mechanics, and then just being able to live. We see it so many times in so many of these fights, just his individual mechanics. For a player to join an organization like KC, has always got to be very stressful, but I feel like this man has just played his game ever since he's joined the league, so credit to him.
And it's nice to see KC start to, at the very least in this series, buy into his identity as a player.
100%,
right? I think that's always the kind of thing you want to see in a project like KC, but also for a player like Vladi, to come in under such stressful circumstances like you mentioned, to give him the freedom of play on something like Yone against G2.
And they've done a great job of playing around him, right? All the fights that have happened have been in mid lane. Supports, junglers, mid laners, they're the primary people involved in a lot of these skirmishes. And so far, they've been going toe-to-toe. Gold lead ever so slightly in favor of G2, but nothing too significant as G2 will secure the first tower of the game.
Vladi gets slowed, jumps away from the Zenith Blade.
Cross-map's still happening though. I think KC are okay with this at the end of the day, though it's 600 gold into Summer's back pocket. And into a composition like KC where there's so much dive, Xayah getting further and further ahead. It's going to feel a little bit rough, but
it's also jungle camps, right? Like, Closer was able to take the Rift Toad, and that's great, but you didn't get pressure on top tower, you weren't pressuring mid tower, you're losing your bot side jungle camps. Closer's now going to go in and steal away a Razor Deep, but we'll see if the Grand Exchange is enough. BrokenBlade is low in top lane, so maybe Closer will make a visit up there relatively soon.
I mean, Yike has been having a fantastic series. His awareness this game of what he can and can't do on the map has just been spectacular. And he's just been stealing away camps, as you highlighted, very efficiently.
It helps when you're playing Brand or Zyra.
100%, of course it does, of course.
That said, at almost 10 CS a minute in a competitive game onto jungle role, it's an absolutely stellar performance so far.
Definitely facilitated by his lanes getting pressure and allowing him that bit of extra safety and freedom to step in. The Rift Herald was secured by Karmine Corp though, 3.5 minutes before the next Drake. It's Chem Soul, perhaps not as fought over as something like the Infernal that we had in Game 1. So we see Upset and Hansama once again going back to farming duties, now 4 CS between the two AD carries.
It's like golf commentary anytime we talk about the
it's,
AD carry CS.
At the moment, a double bogey for Hansama as he has fallen behind the par score on this course. Although it doesn't really work because the higher the score, the better when it comes to CS. So, you know, Hansama has got a lot of birdies, but Upset with his triple bogey is actually ahead. Vladi, able to dash back here. Yike and Mikyx on their way across. Neither of you watch golf, do you?
No, I have no idea what you just said.
As soon as I went down that route, I was like, one of them's going to follow me and make a little joke afterwards. But no, you just left me out to dry after starting up the whole discussion.
I know that there are clubs.
There are clubs.
Yep. I joined the chess club when I was in school.
Oh, nice.
Do you know what en passant is?
I do, actually.
Nice.
What's that? No, I'm kidding.
Just Google it, mate.
Alright, I will.
Pressure from G2 up towards the top side. They force Vladi a little bit low. Caps trading with him once again. Vladi using that shield, dashing in, flashed away by Caps. Meanwhile, towards the bottom side, Closer's locked up in the Stranglethorns. Targamas puts the Unbreakable down as Upset tries to join the party. And Closer's locked up once again. Yike takes him. And the Andrew's burning up. Upset. Oh, he puts Targamas back. A worthy sacrifice. Targamas falls on his sword as Upset gets away.
I mean, there's a world where Targamas could have maybe flashed, but Upset just kind of looked him in the eyes and said, "I'm sorry," as he propelled it into G2. That's 2 extra kills gained for G2. The thing that was crazy to me was both supports were just tanking so much in that fight. Now, the TP flank.
They see it.
Vladi has flash, but he doesn't have Fate Sealed. Canna's looking for the flank, but he's only got about 1/10 of a bar.
Is Mini Gnar that threatening?
He's trying to build it up, but
No, he is not.
Okay.
So Yike did a pretty clever thing there where he spawned plants in the direction that Vladi was traveling in, and then he just said, "You deal with those." Lands the root onto Canna.
Yike no flash. There's the Gnar into the wall. Mikyx flashing with the Zenith Blade. Yike will fall here, but it's Mikyx that Targamas, that gets the shutdown. Caps kills off Canna. Meanwhile, Upset just got 1v1 by Hansama. Closer trying to get away as well. As Hansama starts to open up on this Xayah. Now he's on the wrong side of the rift. Closer has to flash. Can Vladi chase?
Yes.
Vladi has ult.
The answer is yes. Flash ult, he's dead. Okay, shut down over to Vladi.
But you could look at it from the perspective of Hans got flash from Closer, flash from Vladi, flash and cleanse from Upset in exchange for his own summoner spells.
Yep.
I think that's pretty worth after getting a kill on top of that.
Yeah, I'm no mathematician, but
I can do the math.
Yeah. And I feel like not only that for G2, it just kind of allows a little bit of window, or a little bit of time.
I mean, it sets up nicely for the Dragon fight,
exactly,
right?
For the vision to come through here for G2. But not only that, yeah, exactly. The next fight is going to be pretty favorable for G2 about all of those summoner spells. That said, Caps no flash, Yike no flash, and I feel like we saw what happens if Yike doesn't die at the start of the fight in that top exchange a few minutes ago. KC really have to be pinpoint with their ultimates to actually lock down the key members, and right now, I feel like that is Yike.
3, 1, and 2 on the Zyra. Almost has that Rhylight complete as well. Leandri's already there. The bounty was collected by Targamas in the last fight. He's building his way up towards the Warmogs, but still quite a way away from it. Upset starting to chip away at this top lane tier 1. Targamas locked up. Glacial Fisher coming down as well, but only Closer there to protect. Canna looking for the flank. Does have the Mega Gnar building up. Targamas still alive. Hansama coming in from the side. The Gnar into the wall as Caps is locked up. True Shot Barrage coming out, but Caps will go down. But there goes 2 in response. For a moment it looked bright for Karmine Corp, but G2 put out the lights. Vladi dashes forward, gets the double knockup with the Mortal Steel. Dashes back, still stunned, no flash for him, but he has that Mortal Steel Q3 to jump over the wall. Mikyx still chasing. And with the tier 2 standing there, he calls off the pursuit.
I was about to call the Baron, but it hadn't even spawned yet.
Yeah.
A nice flank from Canna to lock up Caps, but another fantastic solar flare came through from Mikyx to just buy enough time for him to be able to even get his ultimate off.
Yeah.
We'll see it again in the replay. They start their initiation onto the Braum. Caps is just following up on his front line. Canna finds a nice angle behind as BrokenBlade is doing good damage and kind of trying to keep Upset out of the fight. And then you'll see here, the Solar Flare comes through, CCing them both, and then just the Wombo combo that comes through. with the Zyra ultimate was a little too much for Kai'Sa to deal with.
And not to be a negative Nancy, it's great that they ended up finding Caps. Caps not the strong one on G2, man. Like, it really does feel like if you're not finding Yike or you're not finding Hans, the extended fight right now is going to suck. And even as I say that, Caps now has hit 2 items. So, again, you're kind of picking your poison on who you're actually finding. I feel like looking at 5v5s right now is just really rough for G2. If Kai'Sa can try and break up play, look for individual picks, I think they'll find a little bit more success. For now, though, Canna's on this bottom side, getting a little bit of time to himself.
In game 1, I think the advantage of the Rel was that it was just a secondary engage that could either start the fights or just follow up from the original Sejuani. And now I feel like that you're lacking that secondary engage, and we're seeing that when the dives happen, it feels like that once that one target gets caught out, it's just taking that extra bit of time for them to fall. And while I think Kai'Sa did a very good job in game 1 of maintaining a goal deficit, we can see how G2 are kind of continuing to extend that. And a part of it, like, Upset is now getting outplayed by Hansama, right? There are these small key differences that are allowing G2 to snowball much more effectively compared to what we saw in game 1.
Now a 4,000 gold lead for G2. They got their 3rd dragon as well, 4 minutes before the next. Karmine Corp trying to clear out vision in their own jungle. Caps is up towards the top side, pushing out. Answered, well, Canna's pushing out bot. It looks like it's going to be Vladi sent to catch the wave in top for now.
Ultimately, it's just trying to secure as much farm as you can, maybe wanting to secure your next item before beginning the Baron dance, but Baron becomes the next big point of contention if you're G2, because with the type of lead you can have, you can either use it to force a fight, or you can just look to try and secure that objective. In case you're putting a lot of priority on maintaining some control over their top side of the map, so that they still have an ability to contest it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for G2, though, on the flip side of that, not only can they do Baron really fast, there's a really good window for them to do it. They've got an IM advantage, well, they had it in the jungle role, they still got it in mid lane, but they want to utilize this lead to just continue to break down structures with the 5 drops.
And quickly they take down these towers as well. Double AD carry. Caps takes a bit of damage. Canna looking for the flank, but BrokenBlade marking him well. Canna will be able to put some damage into the back of the Croc, but nothing too consequential as he was building up that Mega Gnar bar. The tier 2 in the mid lane falls. G2 get their 4th turret of the game. But the top lane is going back towards the bot lane. And Karmine Corp trying to use a small window to get a little bit of control back in their jungle. But you can see G2 are kind of taking the shorter route to the Baron. They have a couple of, well, 1 control ward around here to deny some Karmine Corp vision. And then as they push Karmine Corp back, they can claim more of this jungle for their own.
Mikyx is now completely out of wards. But G2 have gotten what they wanted, which is full topside vision control. They're pushing in an extra wave. They've brought Renekton. Yeah, I was hoping we'd see this actually. Look at BrokenBlade. He's going to move up to mid, push out that wave 2, and it then sets them up nicely for a potential Baron contest, or maybe even just a commitment onto this tier 2.
Overall's a strong option.
Solar Flare used. Unbreakable does come out from Targamas. TP behind, counter TP immediately from BrokenBlade. Glacial Prison popped by Karmine Corp. Enemies get the stun on anyone. Canna marked by BrokenBlade. The dash in from Vladi. The knockback with the Nav. Is it enough? Featherstorm comes out from Hansama as Canna is now isolated on the backline of G2. They peel well enough to kill off the Gnar, and now perhaps will turn their eyes towards the Baron.
I feel like we're continuing to see the consequences of like the Realm Braum trades that happened in draft here. It's a good angle from Canna, but honestly, BrokenBlade just reads the play really well. Caps is here with a teleport. He's looking for
Targamas, who can jump across the wall, obviously, with the stand beside me, but forces Closer and Targamas to be on a little bit of a mismatched tempo.
Very good Baron angle.
20 seconds still on Canna. Yeah. They're not going to be too afraid to start this one off. Yeah, ultimately, I feel like that the engage looked really good from Canna, but the moment he committed, the rest of Kai'Sa were immediately retreating. Though, Kai'Sa looking for the fight.
Look for the steal here. Vladi has no fate steal, goes in with a Sola ban. Caps has to flash across the back of the wall. Closer trying to get in. Mikyx there with a shield of Daybreak stun in time. Mikyx sacrificed himself for the Baron. His team will escape. Karmine Corp still looking for a bit more of a chase. But with the Baron empowered recalls, I think G2 will get 4 members out.
Looks like it. Good Baron from G2. Ultimately, they delayed it to allow Caps to be able to base, TP back in. He went for a bit of a trade, and that meant that Kai'Sa had this window to be able to fight it. Unfortunately, they couldn't quite get into the pit. There wasn't an opportunity for them to try for that steal, and so they will be able to take a Constellation turret, but now with the Baron and Dragon spawning in about 20 seconds, they need to quickly regroup, reset, back out onto the map, get ready to try and contest this Soul. for a last chance of trying to turn this game around, because right now it's all G2 and it's really their game to lose.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if KC even really have a window in.
I don't think they're going to. Closer keeps cancelling his back up towards the top side. You can see Vladi up there as well. He does have TP if you want to go for the fight, but I think Karmine Corp were hoping BrokenBlade would try and answer Vladi's push. Or maybe they're just looking for the tier 2 of their own. Closer's still staying around there. Obviously, Chem Soul, not one of the more valuable souls, but still valued in certain situations.
That said, I think this is one of those games where it's just a major pain point for KC, because they've continually tried to dive in, whether it's been Closer and Vladi together or Canna finding a good angle, but again, no follow-up. The lack of damage we've already seen is now just going to be accentuated by this Chem Soul once they get below the 50% HP threshold, if they even get them there from this point.
For Karmine Corp, it feels very much more like the game we expected to see in this series. They have been suffocated by G2 over the last 10 minutes or so, and it's small windows that they can find. Maybe you can find a pick, but G2 aren't really giving you too many opportunities. Perhaps you can find BrokenBlade towards the top side, lock him up with the Glacial Prism, fate sealed as well. BrokenBlade does have the flash and can use it across the wall, but a good chase by Vladi. There's the Sterak's though, that shielding so powerful, and Upset dives in. Vladi takes the kill. What do Karmine Corp lose for that? Because G2 are pushing in as 4 towards the bot side. Targamas has to dash away. The tier 2 at least will be forfeit. Will it be more from G2 off this push?
I mean, Vladi's going to keep trying to push in the top side of the map, trying to get some gold back for his team, and he's likely going to have to reset if the Baron recalls come through. KC, I like the fact that they're at least trying something on the cross map. They know that they're not likely going to be able to defend this tower. They still have a range problem in that the moment that G2 decide to siege something, there's not a huge amount that KC can do about it.
I will say though, you look at that top right corner of our heads-up display, the Baron power play was negative 205 gold for G2.
Yeah.
Now they did secure it, they only lost one player to do it, but Karmine Corp played the map well enough to actually deny G2 1,500 gold, because that's how much you get for just taking the Baron.
I mean, honestly, when you kind of zoom out as to where a lot of the gold is in general anyway, the mid lane and the ADs are both just about even in Nioms, and then the only big discrepancy is between Yike and Closer, but you don't really mind that because once Sejuani, you're still always going to get the baseline effectiveness out of that champion.
So I will mention,
I feel like they're okay.
I overlooked G2 getting the soul, which we do have to account into the Red Bull Baron power play. You know, although they didn't get as much gold, they got effective stats from the soul. Wouldn't want to overlook that, as now they push for the tier 2 in the top lane. Vladi shoved in the wave in bot, and that's going to be answered by BrokenBlade, but Vladi does have TP. He's recalling right now, almost at his 3rd item. Now has it with the Immortal Shield Bow. Yike's Banshees is popped, Canna coming in. TP behind by Vladi as well, as G2 begin to retreat, realizing the collapse has begun from Karmine Corp. BrokenBlade has a teleport of his own if the engage continues, but Karmine Corp can't really find the trigger to pull to find this fight.
Vladi hovering around still. Hasn't quite secured level 16. He's very close to that level up, as BrokenBlade being given time. Closer though with a nice angle.
Mikyx jumps in. Glacial Prison onto Hans Summer. He cleanses away. Strangle Thorns, the Gnar for Mikyx against the wall. Now he flashes. TP coming in. The Sola player only finds the slows as Canna now needs to try and retreat. He'll get some movement speed from going into Mini and gets away. G2 though still have a Canna minion to push down this tier 2 with.
Alright, G2 get the objective they came for. 90 seconds until the Baron, so likely just reset here, spend whatever gold they found throughout this push. Canna might, I think, should actually
that would be a nice little objective to get some gold back for the team at the very least. Baron in a minute's time, so resets need to come through for both teams. Canna knows he can't afford to overstay his welcome, so he's going to back off from that situation. Vladi is continuing to get stronger. You already highlighted his 3rd itemization picked up earlier, Medic, and the fact that he's now level 16 definitely makes him a threat and a carry potential for the side of KC. Jamada, you were talking about Upset's itemization, very even with that of Hans Summer, even with the gold deficit. It's not resulted in a completion yet. Yep. So like, there's a world where KC can definitely win a fight. I just think being able to find that execution is harder with the draft differences that we're seeing. When you're very much reliant on Canna finding a flank, Closer being able to act as the primary initiation, and then that dive coming down onto that initial target. Xayah plus Ezreal have a lot of self-agency when it comes to peeling for themselves, and then Zyra disengage is really annoying. Like, anyone that's ever played against this champion knows how obnoxious it is to, like, if you're at the back of the fight, to get into the fight when those plants are just hitting you in the face. It's so much zone control that the champ can provide that I think will make it difficult for KC to really commit to the full dive.
See Upset trying to hit those Void Seekers, trying to get that damage to stick. Not a huge amount of magic resist on the side of G2. Upset at 3.5 items with the Lightning Jewel in his inventory. But Karmine Corp just don't have the vision. Where's BrokenBlade? Of all of G2 in that bush, who knows? Maybe they're just hiding around the corner. BrokenBlade now steps forward. Caps was towards the bottom side. We only know that because Canna spotted him out with a scry as Bloom. Yike and Mikyx looking forward. Upset has to pop the cleanse, the True Shot Barrage. Targamas tanks it with the Unbreakable. Glacial Fisher going down as well, but it's Mikyx and BrokenBlade on the front line. The face sealed onto the back line, though, is beautiful, but Vladi just doesn't have the damage to follow up. And now G2 have split Karmine Corp into 2 separate groups. Yike is down. Mikyx stepping forward. Hans Summer gonna put the damage down onto Targamas. Another Void Seeker from long range. Targamas should fall here. Closer trying to get away. Targamas puts the Winter's Bite onto Hans Summer, but still hard escape. 2 for 1 so far, the trade. Mikyx coming in. Oh, to get away! Oh, Cap spots him! It was blind into the bush, but where else would he be backing? As Canna falls, and now G2 can turn their eyes towards the big purple worm.
Definitely an awkward fight, but ultimately one that is won by G2. They'll convert this into the Baron. The Elder Dragon is alive as well. Whether they can quickly go back to base and contest it, you imagine they should be able to. But a tense situation that Upset kind of makes the best of. Initiation primarily goes onto Targamas. Upset's forced to retreat, and you'll see here is G2 really start to run away with the fight.
Yeah, the timing's also really unfortunate for KC. Even though Vladi puts down so much CC, Canna runs out of Mega Gnar. It's that simple. He could have flashed in if he still had it, but time's out. Upset, great little assassination onto Yike and a good escape from the backline, but at that point when there's no follow-up on all of the work Vladi was putting down, just simply because G2 are so strong in the front line, fight falls apart.
Caps no flash, Yike no flash. TP behind as Karmine Corp look to take the fight in the bottom side. Mikyx tanking up the Elder for now, but does have that Warmogs. Targamas puts the Unbreakable down to stop the True Shot Barrage. The Baron buff empowering these minions for G2. The Void Seeker going wide there from Upset. Fate Sealed, Glacial Prison, still possibilities. Hans Summer has Cleanse and Flash and Featherstorm. He has everything he needs if he's the one caught out.
Vladi.
3 plants go down. Vladi looking for the flank. Puts Control Ward into the bush. But now the Elder down to 7,000. Can Closer get in? He's already down to half HP. He tries to dash in, but he can't land a smite. Yike gets this one. The Solar Flare goes down as Canna goes in, but the GA only buys him a second. It's 2 for Yike already. It's 3 for G2, and the chase continues. Make it 4 alongside the Elder, the Baron for the next 2 minutes.
G2 are just too far ahead, and again, Vladi, honestly, good work onto the backline. Great ultimate, great Q3. But there's just not enough follow-up from KC, and it's not their fault. It's just G2 defending their ground really aggressively. And now with the Elder, with the Baron, with the Soul, they're looking to close out this series 2-0.
Ultimately, a commanding game 2 from G2, rectifying the issues from game 1 and cementing their superiority over KC. They're looking to end it in a clean 2-0.
Targamas goes forward. The last brick in a lonely blue wall has fallen. G2 will clean up the series. Karmine Corp have hope, but they'll have to work their way through the lower bracket.
Game 1, we definitely saw some promising things from KC. They had a strong plan. I think they executed well, and they made things really difficult for G2. But in Game 2, it felt like that the shifts in the draft didn't really give them the changes that they wanted. It felt like that they became more limited, and G2 were quick to take advantage of that. The Zyra was running out of control. Hans Summer had an incredible game, and they ultimately got the expected 2-0 as they move forward in our summer playoffs.
You can vote for one of them in your Kia Player of the Series. Vote at LEC on X. BrokenBlade, Yike, and Caps are your options. Yike had a really good series.
I mean, it should
on
be.
the
Yeah, it should be.
Zyra. I can't say it should be, Vedi. We're not allowed to influence the vote as well.
Sure,
you guys can.
What about Caps' dad? He's going to tweet at you now. Yeah. Don't want my son.
Yeah, I think ultimately Yike did have a great series on the carries, the Brand and the Zyra. 2 very strong champions, obviously, in the current meta. Laure will now have to experience what I went through, which is that when your favorite champion is played by pros, Riot's going to ruin it. So good luck with that one. But yeah, ultimately a strong performance from G2, kind of the expected result. We're going to be seeing them go up against BDS tomorrow. Yeah. And I think G2 will come in as heavy favorites based on what we saw from the BDS Mad Lions series.
Not to be a broken record, but it just feels like G2, look, regular season, always up and down, but they always still look strong. They come into playoffs and they just dumpster their teams on the way in towards the finals. As, again, tales of demise, potentially a little bit overblown.
For sure, for sure. I'm excited to see what adaptations BDS can make in the short turnarounds. How are you going to deal with the multi-carry threat that is this G2 roster? Yike proving again that he can be a big carry threat now. Do you shift the ban priorities over to him? Are you going to give Tristana to Caps again?
No.
Yeah.
I think that's the one we can all agree on, and most teams agreed on during the regular season.
Well, bear in mind, Corki, Xayah, and Trist. Well, he banned Lucian as well, which I think is much more of a Caps ban than it is a Hans Summer ban. So you can target him all you want. His pool is very deep, and then the other carries also step up.
Yeah. So have you ever seen Anchorman, Vedi?
I don't think I have.
You know where Ron Burgundy just reads off whatever's on the auto queue?
Yeah.
I'm going to do that right now. Trouble is not standing. Oh, it's changed to now. Okay. Trouble is now standing by with BB and Caps in the Marriott Bonvoy post-game check-in. Let's send it over to her.
Indeed, I am, Medic. Thank you guys so much. Caps, BrokenBlade, congratulations on a clean win. 2-0 over KC. Now, I do say clean, but there was an incident of 7 dragons being taken until you guys could clean it out in game number 1, BrokenBlade?
Yeah, I mean, in the first game, our mid laner was having a little bit too much fun on side lane, dying a little too much. So they got some dragons. But we got the dragons after.
Hold on. There was a whole video about you leading the team and being the shot caller. Could you not have railed him back?
That's true.
Yeah?
I mean, sometimes the demons just take over, right?
And you cannot control them?
Yeah.
The thing is, there was going to be Infernal map, right?
Yeah.
So we gave them the 3 drakes so we could get 4 Infernals.
Oh, you gave them the useless drakes and you got the important ones.
Exactly.
You know what? That makes absolute sense. Now, of course, that was a pretty clean series, guys. I'm pretty sure you're also very satisfied with yourselves. However, I want to ask about the experience in general that you brought here from the international event, playing LPL, playing LCK, playing NA maybe? I don't know. Caps?
I mean, definitely, we took a lot away from the trip, and we learned a lot about the AP junglers especially, because there was something that the other teams were using very well at EWC. But we didn't have as much of it in Europe, so it was something we were trying out, and it worked out really well today. I think Yike was on fire, so yeah, excited to see what we can do the rest of the playoffs.
I bet he's a bit happy not to be on Maokai as well. Now, Vivi, coming over to you, double Renekton, double Crocodile over in the top lane. This is pretty much like an LPL special, I want to say. We're seeing it be one all over LPL right now. What are your thoughts on the champion and the counters he might have in the top lane, if any?
I mean, honestly, my team just wanted me to play Renekton, so I was like, sure, I'm down. It ended up being very good, especially against their comp. Yone is not known to be very strong against Renekton. So, and they also picked Yone into Renekton, which I think is not correct. I was a bit scared blind picking Renekton like that, but yeah, they played a lot in LPL. Recently, I've been playing much better against the LPL top laners, so maybe there's a correlation between that. But yeah, it was just good, so we picked it. I can't share too much information, right? We are still in a competition.
Play tomorrow.
We play tomorrow. So I will not answer that question fully, if that's okay with you.
Fair. That's classified information. However, you guys have joined every single tournament that has happened so far. We're talking LEC, we're talking MSI, we're talking EWC. You have been through so many competitions overall. How much of a toll does it take to continuously be traveling, playing, not having much time off?
I mean, for me, it's fine. I think we have a lot of good approaches to it. Our staff is doing a good job of helping us reset and keeping good condition for the games. And I also, it used to be even more, I feel like in the past, back before 2020, there was All-Stars and Rift Rivals and stuff like this, so it still feels like there's not even as much as back then, so it's fine.
So Caps is requesting for more tournaments, we got it. What about you, BrokenBlade?
I mean, for me, it's always fun to be traveling around the world playing League of Legends. I mean, last tournament, I was kind of the patient zero. I made my teammates a little bit sick, so sorry for them. But it happens, you know. Sickness happens. It's all about playing sick as well, right?
All right. Talking about sick. Yike had a pretty sick performance today in the AP junglers, like Caps mentioned, and he's waiting over on the other side in PGL with Laure and Sola. Would you guys like to tell him anything? Because I think, you know, maybe his head grows like over and he thinks he's too good on these AP junglers, so he will never go back on the Maokai. Any words for him?
I mean, definitely, I just want to say I hope he enjoyed today, because as far as I'm aware, it's definitely going to be some Maokai and Sejuani tomorrow. So, enjoy.
All right, we're spilling the secrets. Now I'm going to ask all the fans to head over to the fan zone, because this is where PGL is going to be held with Yike, Laure, and Sola. Take it away, guys.
Thank you.